Welcome. So glad to have you with us. I'm here today with Shayla. Shayla and I will, and you'll see her in a minute. And my name is Larry Cook, and I am so excited about today's message and what God has. But I'm more excited that you tuned in today because this is for you. If you tuned in, there's a reason, there's a purpose that you turned this on today. And I know that God's going to bless you, going to encourage you, going to increase you. So thank you for watching today. Just open your heart, let God speak, and we're going to just see something mighty happen in your life today. So, like I said, I'm here with Shayla today, and so glad to have her as a part of this ministry. How are you?
Good, good, good. Excited to be here, and we are so grateful that you're tuning in.
Yes, we're gonna talk today about a subject. I was thinking about it all week. It just kept coming back to my heart.
Yeah.
Wasn't sure where I was going to go with this. And so, if you got a Bible, you can turn to Daniel with us today, and we're gonna share some things that God has shown me out of this. And the basic word that God kept giving me was adversity.
Yeah.
How things that hardships, things that come against us. When you look up the word adverse or adversity, you find hostility, opposition. In other words, something's coming against you. Something is harassing you or hassling you. Something's causing you confusion. So we can find a lot of different words that represent adversity. And you know today what's going on in your life,
Right.
that so much comes in from the outside to keep us from being full of peace or
Yep.
joy or having hope or excitement. And I know I've gone through, I can't tell you how many situations where as a Christian, now this is something you need to know too. As
Right.
Christians, matter of fact, it might be more so in some ways as a Christian that we're attacked and under pressure more. And that's what I love about the stories that God gave us to encourage us on how to act, how to react, how to
Right.
go through these times like this. And I guess one thing I would say about all the times that we go through adversity, actually, is this too will pass.
Yep.
no matter
Right.
no matter how it looks, it
Right.
will pass, and we will make it through if we trust in God, if we keep our focus. And this is what I love about this story. This is a story about in Daniel is the Israelites have been taken captivity into Babylon, and in other words, they're becoming slaves.
Right.
Here they were, God's people, free, and next thing you know, the enemy has come in
Right.
and taken them captivity and made slaves out of them, and they have a choice
Right.
how they're going to act or how they're going to react to their situation, their circumstance, the pressure of these people. Well, they know they're going to do one of a couple of things. If they're going to be slaves, they're going to work.
Right.
They're going to work hard, and they're going to work without much pay, and maybe food and a place to stay so they can work. Or they were looking for the captors, the ones that took them into slavery, were looking to see what kind of quality some of these people might have,
Right.
so they could use them in higher places than just doing regular menial work and labor. And so, if you got good guys coming in, I think it's like in most countries. I know America's having a problem with this right now, getting the right people to come into the country. You don't want just anybody coming into the country that might be a
Right.
drain on the country. You want people coming into the country that would be useful, that would help better the country. And so we want people like that in. And that's what they were looking for in these slaves, people that could really help their country prosper and do better. So they weren't really wanting to kill the slaves. They were wanting them to help them to grow their country. And so in the, let's see, where are we? The 8th verse It says, but Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with the portion of the king's meat, nor with the wine which he drank. Therefore he made a request to the prince of the eunuchs that he might not defile himself. In other words, Daniel said, I know what you're feeding everybody to make them strong and healthy so they can work hard and all, but it's against what we believe in our faith as Jews. We're supposed to eat certain ways, do certain things. And so now he's putting himself in a position to really, for them to come against him and say, no, you know, we want you strong and healthy. You'll eat what we tell you to eat and do what we tell you. But Daniel's making a stand for what he believes. And he says, no, I really don't want to do that. So if you would let me, I would like to just change the way we're going to eat here. I don't want all the wine and stuff. Give me some water and some beans and just some very basics. And also there were three other guys with him, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. At least that was their new name. And they decided and made the same decision with Daniel to abstain from just doing what everybody else does. And what really gets me, and we doesn't talk much about it in here, is everybody else that was in slavery went along with what basically the world said to do. Right. And they said, oh, yeah, I guess we just got to fit in and blend in, you know. And so easy in wherever you are, whatever situation you're in, to just blend in, to go along. Because anytime that you decide to go against the grain, there's going to be people that are going to talk about you. They're going to pressure you. They're going to put you on the spot. And I just thank God as Christians, I don't mind being put on the spot because God knows how to come through no matter what we're going through. Right. And so when Daniel says, I'm going to make a stand no matter what everybody else is doing, boy, that blesses me. That encourages me. And I know Shayla's probably can give us a story, or we hadn't really talked about this, of where she's had to make a stand when it'd been easier to go along with the crowd. Right. Well, and I think too, like you said, they just fall in suit. And I do think of the word pressure because there's so much pressure to conform to the ways of the world, you know, and I think we've been conforming for so long that then we forget, oh, that's the way of the world, you know. And I have many stories of my own, but, you know, even now I'm thinking of a friend of mine who is a grown adult who is, you know, in a serious relationship. And I think people are always questioning what does that relationship look like? Are these people sleeping together before they're married? And I think they look at her like, why are you, this isn't normal, why aren't y'all living together, you know? And she has to take a stand, and so many times it's something that she's proud to do, but it definitely is like there's a constant pressure. And so, you know, anything from that just to truly, you know, what we believe costing us our life, you know. I was thinking, you know, even in Daniel, you know, so many times when we're pressured, I think, you know, if you have an orange and you squeeze that orange and apple juice comes out, that would be weird. But for us, so many times when we are pressured, we squeeze out everything except for Christianity, and that's, you know, we conform to the ways of the world. And so, you know, I think back in my own life in those times and opportunities, you know, there were some times where I missed it because I cared more about the opinion of man than honoring God and being obedient, and it costs me. And so I think, you know, as you look at the story of Daniel's life, you see that our lives are going to cost us either way, you know. And so I think sometimes in shortcutting or undermining what God asks us to do, we end up paying a greater price because it's a price of rebellion and disobedience. Well, the adversary, he's always working. He's always trying to find out what do you really believe. Right, and where's your weak spot? All those things, you know. I was thinking about that as we were talking about speaking on adversity, and that scripture did come to me, you know, that the adversary is always, you know, like a lion looking around at who he can devour, you know, and that's
we have to recognize the tactics of the enemy, you know.
And so Daniel, he says, I'm not going along with the crowd, and
Right.
and we're gonna do something different here. He said, can I have certain foods that, you know, I don't want to eat what everybody else is eating. And the eunuch that was taking care of these
Right.
four, actually, with Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, and Daniel, they said, well, I guess we'll try it for a while and see
Right.
how you look after a period of time. I think it was 10 days. And they did, for 10 days, it says in verse 14. And it said, at the end of the 10 days, their countenance and their appearance was fairer and fatter in flesh than all the children which ate the king's portion of
Yeah.
meat. In other words, they didn't go along, but they got better. And they showed that, you know, doing what God said, being obedient to what they really believed, they prospered in their health and the way they looked. And I think it's what a lesson this is for us to
Right.
look at, to go, wait a minute, there is something blessed about doing it God's way instead of going along with the crowd. And I'm just praying today that this is just going to get down in your heart, because it's going to cost you something. There's always a cost to these things, and you got to believe that during this 10 days they were under pressure.
Oh, for
Well,
sure.
you're probably not going to make it.
Right.
You won't be better. Then they're going to really get after you because you failed. And what they come to find out was that not only did they get better in that, they learned more. They were more able to work in, I can't think of the right word right now, wisdom. That's the word I'm
Right.
looking for. They were wiser, and they worked in wisdom and understanding like nobody else. And that just comes from just being in the presence of God.
Yeah.
I've watching something on TV the other day, and I've noticed that one thing they were sharing on this program was how it's amazing all of a sudden that out of nowhere people get ideas. They,
Yeah.
you know, we know where it comes from. It comes from
Nowhere,
God.
right.
Yeah, but they just think, you know, out of nowhere, and how inventions have happened, that somebody's just sitting there and all of a sudden it just comes to them how to invent a light bulb.
Right.
You know, well, we know better than that. I believe God's the one that for eternity has given information to us to grow and to be more successful and to create, because we're hungry to
Yeah.
obey God and to grow and to do more. And so God just starts downloading information and wisdom and ideas. And I know in my life, and of course some of you, if you've watched, you know, I never finished school, so I don't have the education.
Right.
But I spend time with God, and God downloads information, and that means I have to separate myself and not do everything everybody else does and be like everybody else. I have to take that time to study, to pray, to be quiet, to wait on God, and see what God will do next, what He'll show me next. And some of the information I get, sometimes it blows me away what God will show me if I'll listen. But I can't just go along with the crowd, even
Yeah.
with what we would call normal Christianity.
Yeah.
Because in what I call normal Christianity would be people that go to church on Sunday, spend an hour, maybe two, in church, go home, and don't do anything else as far as Christianity is concerned, or God, or prayer, or Bible
Right.
study, until maybe Wednesday and some kind of meeting, and then go back Sunday. Well, they're not growing. They're not changing.
Right.
They're just doing a religious activity, because to do anything outside of that will take a sacrifice.
Right.
You're going to have to, I mean,
Right.
I don't have children at home anymore, but Shayla does, and that takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
And I know when I had my children, I had to separate
Yep.
myself to this time, and it's not easy,
Yeah.
because your children are demanding this, the family needs coming and
It's
going,
life.
but you have to figure a way to really separate yourself.
Right.
I mean, just to do this TV show, you have to come out from among the things that at home and the family, and to give yourself to that. And so there's a lot of pressure in some ways to just stop. And You know,
Yeah.
you don't need to do that.
Yeah.
You could be at home. You could do easier things.
Yeah.
But this is where we grow.
Yep.
And this is where we gain wisdom when we separate ourselves, spend time with God. And that's what was happening to Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego. And matter of fact, and of course, there's no way we have time to read the whole story. We're going to do
So
some bits
good.
and pieces here.
Yeah.
But it's amazing to me that these men were slaves, yet because they separated themselves, because they didn't listen to the adversary, they listened to God, and the next thing you know, they're being put in position
Yeah.
above the people that weren't slaves.
Yeah.
Now we have slaves rulers and giving wisdom and knowledge that only God could download. And they're being blessed and they're prospering. And you think, okay, boy, this is good. They're really moving with God, and God is blessing them, and everything's going to be perfect
till the next
now.
trial.
And then the king Nebuchadnezzar decided that he wanted to build a statue of himself and have everybody worship him. So he built this giant statue and made a statement that just cracks me up in a way. I'm thinking, my gosh, what a self-centered guy was
Yeah.
this. He said, anytime you hear music, I want you to look toward my statue and fall on your
Wow.
knees and bow down and worship my statue. So every time they played music, everybody in the country had to bow down
Yeah.
and worship the statue of this king Nebuchadnezzar. And that just, to me, is like, really? I mean,
Right.
what kind of deal is this that you want to be worshipped? Except these men, Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, and Daniel, they weren't guys that would bow to the king.
Right.
They had one God and one God only, and they had to make a decision. And I love this story because it doesn't matter how successful you are or how good things are going right now, we have an enemy.
Yep.
That's not going to, he's always looking for an area in your life to try to get into you to bring you down.
Yeah.
And if you think just because you become a Christian, matter of fact, I was told this when I first became a man, once you become a Christian, everything's going to be great. Life is going to be easy. I mean, God's going to bless you. Well, God does bless me, but life doesn't become just easy because you become a Christian. Matter of fact, there are a lot of things that will come against us to where I think we call it spiritual warfare, I guess
Yeah.
would be the term most people use. We are in a war
Right.
against an enemy that wants to defeat us. The good news is we have a God that wants to arm us
Right.
and bless us in a way that we can always whip our enemy. We don't have to fear our enemy. We know we've got the victory,
Yep.
but the problem is if we'll make a stand.
Right.
And so many people are not willing to make the stand. It's just easier. And so what happens in this story is that when the trumpet was blown and everybody's supposed to bow down, some of the people in the country looked around, and while they were bowing down and they saw Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, those three guys standing and not bowing down.
Yep.
And then just like the world to run and tell, I mean, first thing, oh man, you can't believe this, King.
Yeah.
There's three guys, and they're your guys. You put them in high places. They're not bowing down. They don't even honor you. Isn't that amazing? The only thing they did wrong was stand.
Right.
They didn't say anything. They didn't do
Right.
anything. They just didn't bow down to the enemy of their soul. Who they said there's only one God, and we're gonna worship Him. So anyhow, this story is that the king called them in and said, "Hey guys, is this true? I mean, come on, really? Did you not bow?
Right.
I mean, we blew the trumpets, and y'all just stood." And they were like, "Yes, O king, that's exactly what happened." Said, we don't bow down, we only serve God. And here's the amazing thing. The king said, I'll give you one more chance. The devil will always give you another chance for
pressure.
failure. He'll always open another door for you to fall into the trap, to give you another opportunity to sin. He doesn't let go. Just come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
No,
Just
right.
bow down. What big deal is
Do
that?
you really want to die over
Yeah,
this? Right.
you know, I mean, I've had people come up to me, oh man, just have a drink with me. Oh,
Right.
you can do that. Just have this. Just
Yeah.
do that. And we have to make a decision. You know, what do we do to really honor God? What is it that God is pleased with? I've got a friend right now that I'm dealing with. He keeps trying to come up with ways to get around the drinking thing, to say it's okay, and I'm like, I just can't justify this. There's no way.
Right.
But if you want to justify something, you keep trying, you will find a way
Right.
to justify anything, and say, well, you know, God doesn't care and God doesn't mind. The only problem with that is, if these guys had bowed down, I guarantee you their story wouldn't have ever been written.
It's true.
But they took an oath to God to do what they were supposed to honor God, to trust God. And they said, nope, I see you giving me a second chance, but I'm not bowing. And the king said he got angry,
Right.
got mad at them, and said, either you bow or you burn. We're going to throw you in the fiery furnace, and you're going to burn up. And here's their statement. O king, we will not bow down, and our God is well able to save us from the fire.
Yep.
But even if he
Yep.
doesn't, we're not going to bow down. Boy, what a stand.
Yeah.
You know, and I know you've taken that kind of a stand before when people have pressured
Right.
you.
Well, and I think all the way from the very first story with the eunuch where he goes, okay, I'm hearing you about just wanting to eat the vegetables, but do you know, like, I'm afraid of the king. What if this happens? And then fast forwarding to Daniel getting these dreams and visions. And I think there's so many aspects of that. Nebuchadnezzar hearing and watching Daniel interpret the dream, and then still building the idol, you know, which is a good type and shadow of the enemy, because the enemy, it never stops manipulating and all of that. But in all those situations, people were watching what these guys were going to do, and people were impacted. And so, when I think about the boys being thrown in the furnace and the fiery flame, I underlined here in my notes, but if not. And I think it's the but if nots, I will still honor and serve the Lord. That really it's the classroom of our life. That's our classroom where we really grow and learn to trust God, because I mean, that's where it's like, I can't even imagine being in the fiery furnace. And these men literally were thrown in the fire. So hot. The Bible says here that the king was so upset that he made them, that he felt duped by his own men that he had promoted, that he turned the furnace 7 times hotter, that even when the men who were bringing the boys down to the fire, they burnt up immediately.
Yeah.
And then the men fell in the flames, and I know you'll finish telling the story, but I think we can't even imagine that. And over here in Western America, Western world culture, and we know that we have friends around the world that are literally laying down their lives for the kingdom. But I think so often it seems so far away from us, but this is what God does in our everyday lives. He shows up when we put our trust in him in those situations where it doesn't seem like it's going to be possible without him, and so anyway, it's so interesting, and I think about these kings. There's 3 different kings in this book of Daniel, and all 3 times God gives them opportunity, and then they still
They
go
still
back
get-
to being ignorant. So there's so many lessons we can learn from the book of Daniel.
Well, what we want to see today, and going to kind of finish this session today, is these guys, when they did throw them in the fire, they said somebody else showed up in the fire.
Yeah.
And the king said, I threw 3 men, I thought, but there's 4 men walking around. And I thought it was kind of funny because he said, tell those 3 to come out. He knew better than to ask Jesus to come out of the fire. And so he just asked the 3 to come out, and then ended up promoting them because he said, your God is greater than my God, and you're greater than me. So y'all need to understand this. These guys have got something going on. But the thing that I want you to see is and it's sad to me, is most of us will never have that kind of thing to where we're going to be killed for our faith. Some people are, that's for sure. But most of us won't face that. But the sad part to me is so many people with just a little conflict back off. We need to be standing up for Jesus, period.
Yeah.
We need to be doing what's right, period. Because that's when the blessing comes. These guys next were put over the nation. God used them after that. Again, they were put back in authority over the people that lived there. Why? Because when we go through what the world pushes against us, we always come out better.
Yeah.
Gold only comes out through fire. You can't get gold without putting it through the fire. And so we want you to know, whatever you're going through today, you stick with God and watch God bless you. Watch God take you to the next level, to increase you, to do something awesome in your life. We just believe and expect that this message, and for you, you need to go back and read it.
Right.
You need to read Daniel. If you don't have a Bible, trust us, that's what it says. This is what happened. And God wants you to be everything that you can be, but it won't happen if you don't make a stand for Jesus. You can't be wishy-washy with Jesus. You're going to have to make a stand and let it be known.
That's right.
We need to pray.
Yes, so we just pray over you today that you would have courage to stand against any assignment of the enemy, that you would draw near to God, and that just through the power of the Holy Spirit, that you would learn to trust God with your life.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us. You can find us at ITW Space TV on YouTube and social media.
Amen.
We'll see you in the next segment. God bless you.